Well, happy Friday, everybody. David Burns, good to be with you today. Pumped and excited to be in the green chair. This is when you get the raw, unedited, unscripted version of David Burns. Good to be with you, everybody. I'm just want to wish you a very happy Friday. And I always like to sit down after the live stream on Thursday night and try to tackle some more questions, maybe not all of them, but some more questions that I wasn't able to answer during the live stream last night. We had a great live stream. So many people were joining us there on the live stream, and it was just a great time together. So thanks for being a part of my live stream. I'll leave a link right here for future live streams. I really expect you to be there every Thursday night. No, I really hope you would be. I can't give you those harsh expectations, can I? But I'd love for you to join me every Thursday night, 7 p.m. Hey, we're going to answer a lot of questions. Listen, before you decide if you want to watch this video all the way through, let me give you a couple of 3 questions that I'm going to answer. And people are asking things like this. When do you typically harvest honey? My bees seem to start to pack the frames with honey in the spring, then seem to eat it before they fill both sides of the frame. I'll be answering that question. Here's another question I'm going to answer. I had a queenless hive. I gave them a new queen and went to check a week later, no eggs. Gave them a frame of eggs just in case, and now there's 5 queen cells. What should I do? I'll be answering questions like this. Missing queen and lots of hive beetles larvae and some slimy honey. After freezing them, can I use them again, or do I need to remove the honey? I'll be answering that question. And so let's see. Here's a good one. Hey David, replace the queen, but some of the bees were stinging the cage and some weren't. I waited about an hour after pulling the original queen to put her in. Will they end up accepting her? So we've got lots more questions to answer, but these are going to be good questions. And if you don't have that scenario now, you need to listen to what I'm going to say, because likely if you keep bees any given amount of time, yeah, you're pretty much going to have those same issues. It's guaranteed. Oh man, it's a beautiful day. We had pretty good rain yesterday, and then it rained again last night. I got woken up in the middle of the night about 3 a.m. with close lightning, and checked my weather station this morning, and we got about a little over a ½ inch of rain after midnight. So things are pretty wet, but it's good to be out here. The sky looks a little bit cloudy behind me, but we're having a good August, actually. Bees are still going out. You know, I think I told you that I have corn and beans mostly here in the Midwest, but some fields, rather large fields actually, have sorghum planted in them, which is so bizarre to me. Bees love sorghum, and I was always hoping that my farmer would plant clover instead of beans. Oh my gosh, wouldn't that be great? Well, what would I do with all that honey? I mean, it would just be like truckloads of honey if those thousands of acres around me were clover. Oh my gosh. But anyway, I'm excited. My bees are still pulling in pollen and nectar from sorghum. So we'll see how that goes this year. And so pretty good year so far. Hope your year is going good as well. If you didn't get a chance to watch last night's live stream, I talked about 3 disasters that a lot of beekeepers run into in the month of August all the way through fall. And these disasters really take sometimes beekeepers by surprise. So I'll leave a link at the end of this video for you to watch that live stream and get that good knowledge about avoiding 3 disasters that happen in the month of August. And before I jump into the questions, let me just pop in here and say that I'm going to be speaking at the Iowa Honey Producers Association meeting. It was a big meeting last year. They brought in big names, names that you guys know off YouTube, big names of entomologists and all. Last year, so many people told me about this conference, and everybody loved attending it. And it's going to be happening again. And months ago, they invited me to be a keynote speaker there. So I'm looking forward to speaking. And I'll pop this in here. You can see the other speakers that are going to be here. And so it's going to be a fun time. You don't have to live in Iowa. People fly from all over to join this meeting. and I always like to promote the meetings that I'm speaking at. And so this is going to be October the 25th and 26th. I'd love to meet you there. I'll have time to spend talking with you when I'm not speaking, and I'm looking forward to this meeting a lot. And so make a note of that if you're looking for a good bee conference after you get all your honey pulled in and probably your bees pretty much ready for winter by the end of October. Might be a good time for you to drop in to this conference. So hope you can join me there. By the way, I do speak a lot. I speak at a lot of conferences. I speak especially at a lot of state conferences. I was asked last week to speak in the Pennsylvania State Association conference, but unfortunately that's when I'm in Iowa at their event. And I was asked to also speak at another large event, but that was the same weekend as my Iowa event. So if you do want me to come and speak, might want to get on the ticket for 2025. I do a lot of Zoom meetings for bee clubs. And so if you want to have me present to your bee club or speak at your conference or something, I'll leave an email right here. You can email us. I don't try to do every one that I possibly can work into my schedule. That would just it would just be a little bit too much, because you know I make 3 or 4 videos a week, and every time I'm gone I have to hustle harder to get videos done ahead of time. But I try to do maybe about 12 to 15 speaking engagements a year. I figure that's about once a month, and that's about enough for me to do. And I do enjoy it a lot. I like traveling. I like speaking. I love being with beekeepers, and yeah. So yeah, if you want me to come speak, let me know ahead of time. Otherwise, I'm already booked up when you ask me, and I hate to say no. Let's see, what else do we want to talk about? You know, I'm going to answer these questions, and I've got some things I want to share with you after I answer these questions that has to do with my passion right now. My burning heart right now is geared toward, why aren't people more able to fix things and have critical thinking skills and process information? And I'm passionate about this right now, so I want to talk about that in just a few minutes. But let's answer these questions, so stick around, and I want to talk a little bit more and maybe help those of you that are struggling with being able to have critical thinking skills when it comes to bees or other things. But let's jump right into the questions. Question here from Ben. Hi Dave, I have a hive whose brood pattern was diminishing, but more concerning is the bald brood that began to occur. No signs of wax moth larvae. Could it be heat stress, genetics, or something else? I made a video on bald brood. I had a hive that had a little bit of bald brood in it, and I gave the 3 reasons why you might see bald brood in that video. I'll leave a link. I'll leave a link in this description of this video, Ben, where you can watch that video about bald brood if you haven't seen it already, and that will answer your questions. But bald brood, we usually think it can be hygienic behavior. They're opening up the caps, exposing the pupae ahead of time because there's mite damage done to that pupa. It could also be the wax moth, like you mentioned, wax moth. That's more of a linear, that's more of a straight line through the comb where the cells are opened up because the wax moths have damaged the pupae below the caps, and so they open it up to clean it out. Can it be heat stress, genetics, something else? Yeah, it can always be something else. Maybe not so much genetics, other than they could be a colony that's more hygienic. That would be in the genetic line, I think, there. But do watch that video. That'd be real insightful, because I take you into a hive and we go through all the kind of the parameters of what to look for, how to assess it. It's going to be a big one. That's another thing I'm passionate about. I think there's a lot of beekeepers today that are just so new to it that it's a little difficult to give a good assessment on your situation. And that troubles me, because I wish everybody could open a hive up and make a quick assessment. But hey, let's face it, a lot of beekeepers are brand new. They don't have the experience, the skills yet, after years of beekeeping, to really know what to look for. All right, Jasmine. Dave, just extracted my first hive from a house. Oh, extracted oh boy. I love these questions. What do I do with the comb that I held in place in the frames with rubber bands? Any advice for the next step? Yeah, I spent years with a great construction partner removing bees from businesses and homes, cars, engines, barbecue grills, empty whiskey barrels, you name it. I think I've taken a hive out of it. Trees, yeah. And so you're wanting to know, what do you do with the comb that you were holding in place with rubber bands? So for those of you that don't understand this process, when you cut comb out of walls to remove a colony, you want to save the bees by using a bee vac. You want to save the comb that has brood in it. So you cut it about the size of an empty frame with no foundation, and then you put that comb in there, and you use rubber bands or cotton string or something to suspend or hold in place the comb. And so in this case, I feel like Jasmine is asking, what do I do with the comb that I held in place in the frames with rubber bands? It's an interesting question. I'm not sure why you want to do anything with it. In other words, it should get glued in, or kind of like they use their propolis and add comb to actually make this a solid frame against that wood frame. And so it's going to be, the comb will be held in place by the bees, even though your rubber band is working temporarily. So I don't know what you would want to, I wouldn't manipulate that. I would leave it that way. And heck, you could leave the rubber bands in for, what difference does it make, right? That's sometimes why I prefer to use cotton string, because eventually, once the frame is held in place by the bees' own extra comb to weld it to the edges, they can just get rid of the cotton string. They'll tear it up and get rid of it. Not so much with rubber band. But if you really want to get rid of the rubber bands, maybe, if you don't like them there, you could cut them, take them off. As long as the frame is, the comb is really welded in to that frame pretty good. That's pretty much what I would do. I'd leave it like that. When you typically harvest honey, my bees seem to start to pack the frames with honey in the spring, then seem to eat it all before they fill both sides of the frame. You know what? That's a tough thing. I think all of us that produce honey, I used to try to make a living with honey, so it was terrifying when my bees took my honey out of my honey super and used it for themselves instead of me making me money. Yeah, you need to pay bills. That's kind of horrifying. In your case, I think that's what's going on here. They just don't have enough food on their own down in the brood area, and they're taking the honey out. They're not able to fill it all up because they don't have an excess amount. And you just got to keep letting them do that. You can't take more from the bees than what they need to make a living and raise brood down there. Hello, David. I currently have a Langstroth hive with double deeps. The top deep has 5 frames of honey, and the other 5 frames are brood, a 3-4 pattern. Is it too much honey at this time of the year? Let's see if I can wrap my brain around what you're asking here. 5 frames of honey, and the other frames are brood. I guess you mean a 3 to 4 pattern. Yeah. I guess you're asking, is it too much honey this time of the year? Top deep has 5 frames of honey. That doesn't seem like a lot. Doesn't seem like too much to me. Maybe you have 3 or 4 frames of brood up there as well, beside all the honey that's in that top deep. I don't think that's too much at all. No. I usually try to go through winter. I try to raise bees with winter physiology. I'll be working on that in the next couple of weeks. And I like 4, minimum of 4, preferably 6 frames of capped over brood, or eggs or larvae. Capped over brood is preferred in the month of September. So that would give me October, November, December, January, February, March. That would be my winter bees surviving all the way through to the month of March. And if I have 6 frames, let's say with, 6,000 cells of capped brood, that's 36,000 winter bees. That's going to pull through. So that's what I aim for. Yeah. All right, in New York, I see, you added more context. In New York, or should I make more room for the queen to lay? Oh, I see. Sorry, I didn't see your second reposting there. Boy, um, 5 frames or brood. I don't know. You sound like a pretty good amount of brood. If you want to take a frame or two of honey out and extract it, let the queen have a little bit more room, that's fine to do that. I don't see a problem with that. But sometimes the bees know what they're doing. I wouldn't get overly micromanaging this unless you just had, you know, 2 deeps, which is 20 frames, and 18 of them were capped over honey. Well, by all means, you've got to do something. 2 frames of brood's not enough, but sounds like you might have enough there. All right, I had a queenless hive, and I gave them a new queen. I went to check a week later, no eggs. Gave them a frame with eggs, just in case, and now there are 5 queen cells. Should I let them raise it? Absolutely, absolutely. Once you start interfering with what bees are doing, they'll fight you on it. I'm gonna fight you. So you can keep throwing, you know, purchased queens in there, mated queens, but if they're in the process of raising their own, man, leave that alone. Let them raise their own, especially if you still have drones. If you don't have drones, it's likely that queen's not gonna get mated even though they're raising their own. But if you still have drones, you'll probably be okay. It's getting a little bit late in the year in August, getting later for where I'm at in Illinois, but we still got about another month. I've raised queens in September before. Sometimes a colony that doesn't have a queen will not kill their drones. Even though those drones don't mate with their queen, it's still a mindset that, hey, we're queenless, so other hives may be queenless, so let's don't push our drones out yet. So if you got drones, you're probably pretty good. All right, let's see. Question for later. Let's see. Oh, what was your assessment of the crop of applicants at EAS this year? Any common problem areas we might want to focus on in our development? Now, some of you may not understand what this means, but this is Mike is referring to the Eastern Apicultural Society. I go there every year. I was certified by this oldest grandfather, most prominent certification of master beekeeper organization that there is, founded by Roger Morse, Cornell University. The EAS was founded in 1955. So I'm going to have to say, Mike, that because I am the team leader of the field test, and because I do field tests, and I also part of the oral panel that tests that provides the oral tests for candidates as well, I would like not to answer this. I know that sounds weird, but I have to be careful what I say since I'm that involved in it. And the reason I do is because I don't want to say anything that only some people could hear and not all candidates could hear. So in other words, we have a website, Eastern Apicultural Society.org. I don't know for sure. I'll post it here. But we have a website where we ask that candidates go to and gain all their information. So it's on equal playing field. I can't really give any other. I know that's awkward, but we try to treat all candidates equally. We don't want there to be any signs of impropriety at all. So I don't teach people I don't teach people to take the test. I don't train people to take the test just because I'm an examiner. And so I don't want there to be any kind of favoritism shown. So I'm going to have to not answer that question, even though I spent so much time answering that question. All right, well, thanks for asking, and I hope, I would say, I can say this though, this is just a known fact that, you know, if you want to be a certified master beekeeper, the best way to prepare or develop for it, like you asked, put in the time, put in hard work, spend a lot of years working bees, spend a lot of time in working a lot of different hives, different scenarios, you know, try to just get a huge base of knowledge in the old noggin about bees. That's the game, right? That's what it's all about. All right, here's Mark. Missing queen, lots of hive beetle larvae, and some slimy honey. After freezing them, can I use them again, or do I need to remove the honey? This is called sliming, and that's when the small hive beetle larvae in their wandering stage wander around through your hive, and they just make a mess of it. And as I've said before, but I know not all of you watch every video, you'll become a much better beekeeper in handling small hive beetle Once your hive gets slimed by the beetles, you will kill every beetle on your property once you experience a slimed hive. It's when they just, they poop, they defecate in the honey and the brood, and it just, the enzymes and all just deteriorate, break through. The honey actually gets fermented, rotted, it drips out outside the hive. It smells like rotten oranges or something, and it's a mess. And whether you can use that again, highly unlikely. You're going to have to strip her down to the plastic, pressure washer it, clean it all up, re-wax it, put new wax foundation if that's what your thing is. Nah, you just, no, you don't want to put that back in the hive. Slime like that. Bees are not very likely to get excited about that, nor would I. Well, I'm sorry to hear about that. That's why we have to really keep our beetles under control. This time of the year in August, they start growing rapidly because reproducing, because we have a lot of humid weather in most of the U.S., hot dog days of August. So stay ahead of the beetles. Definitely stay ahead of them all year. Wow, made a lot of videos. I got a lot of good videos on small hive beetle. Absolutely. All right. Here's Julie. Hi, Julie. Explain, David, how in more detail how you personally decide whether to winter your hive with one deep, one medium versus one deep and two mediums. Thanks so much. Made a video about it. If I can remember, I'll leave that in the description too. Recently, last week or two. And the thumbnail is a picture of me sitting by a hive and it says 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, maybe that wasn't that video. I don't remember now. But oh, yeah, it was a video of me holding my arms out, and one hive is configured the way you mentioned it, and the other hive is configured the way that you mentioned the other hive. And so I'll try to make that in the description. But I talk about that, which hive is better, and I believe I was answering a question that somebody else asked. I live in Illinois, and we have very cold, I live in the prairie, we have windy, cold winters. I live in central Illinois. I live not too far outside of Champaign-Urbana, University of Illinois, if you kind of want to put me on a map somewhere. So we can have really harsh winters. Been not so bad recently, but we've had terrible winters. Let me say this. This is important for me to say. I love saying this. I don't believe the winter is what kills bees. I really don't. A lot of people, I hear beekeepers say, oh, I had a hard winter, my bees died. I don't believe that. I really don't. A hard winter can kill a weak colony. A hard winter can kill a colony with a lot of viruses from the viral destructor mite being spread. A hard winter can kill bees that have no stores of food. They have to eat food to stay warm. But the winter didn't do it. It's the lack of nutrition, it's a poor queen, it's the virus load from mites not being kept under control. So in a warm winter, that hive would likely die as well. But a lot of beekeepers want to say it was the weather, and it's not. It really isn't. So think about that. It's all about, you got a strong colony, virus load's really low, you controlled your mites, and you've got a lot of good nutrition on there, whether you're putting a winter be kind on there, they get a good laying queen, boom. Don't matter what the winter does, that's what I've found, the hive will survive. Absolutely. But I'll get back to your question. The configuration of the hive doesn't really matter that much either. I mean, yeah, you could put 15 deep boxes and put a colony in a stack of 15 deep boxes, and that's not practical, and a lot of heat would rise up beyond where the cluster is. So I think there's something to be said about not making the winter box bigger than you need it. All right, so for me, I can get along with, I don't do single deeps. I know some people do. I love you for doing that. I admire you. I've done it too. But that presents too many possible scenarios where it will fail. And so I don't like that. But where I live, I don't know where you live, it might work great where you live, but for me it doesn't work well. So it works better to have two deeps. I have overwintered the hive back here on that side. I've overwintered them in a deep and a super. I got some down in my other apiary yard down there, deep and a super, and they overwintered well. I've overwintered a nuke before, a 5-frame nuke by accident. So stuff can happen, but it's not the best thing. It's an outlier. So I need two deeps and a super and my winter bee kinds to get them through winter, or I need at least a deep and a medium and a winter bee kind. Lots of winter bee kinds fed to them over the winter. To get them through the winter, that's the way I do it. Kevin Nolan. Boy, that name sounds familiar. Kevin, I feel like I know you. I wish I was a picture of you. I could identify it. Alrighty. Oh, I replaced the queen, but some of the bees were stinging the cage and some weren't. I waited about an hour after pulling the original queen to put her in. Will they end up accepting her? Yeah, Kevin, waiting an hour was probably not enough, because if it's a strong colony and populated well, there's a lot of queen mandibular pheromones from the former queen. Pulling her out for an hour is not enough time for the bees to realize that, uh-oh, we're queenless and we need to accept any queen that comes to town. Not quite enough. An hour might be enough in a 5-frame nuke, something smaller, but I don't think an hour is enough. I think you need 12 hours. Yeah, I mean, I know people say you don't need that much time, but I think you do. And in your case, it's obvious, right? They're stinging through the cage. So the old, well, not an adage, the old recommendation was 24 hours. Kill your queen, 24 hours, put a new one in. And I always did that and worked perfectly. Yeah, so stinging in the cage, you got good eyesight to see that. And sometimes you can think they're stinging the cage, but it could be that they're feeding the queen or just excited about her being there. But I believe you. I believe you saw them trying to kill her or something. So might have been a little bit too early putting that queen in there. Absolutely. All right. Did I get through them all of them? I know I didn't get through all the questions. I know last night we were just pounded with so many questions. I do appreciate it. I hustle. I try to get as many questions answered as I can. And then I try to fall back here raw and unedited and answer more questions today. So, well, that's good. I did that. Now, I want to talk to you about an interesting thing. And that is that, you know, to be a beekeeper, to be a beekeeper when I started was different than to be a beekeeper today. When I started beekeeping, to be a beekeeper back then, you had to be a carpenter. They did not sell assembled equipment. So you had to have knowledge in putting beekeeping equipment together. And a lot of people built their own. I built my own. I sawed my own boards. I assembled my own, cut my own handles in my boards. You know, I built my own equipment. So back then, almost 30 years ago, a beekeeper had to have very good critical thinking skills, because sometimes you had to make things. You had to make things happen. Come on, let's get excited about this. If you're not there, I'm gonna put my arm around you and coach you along how to be somebody that not only has critical thinking skills, but wants to fix things. Man, I love fixing stuff. I'm crazy. If I've never told you about who I am, I'm a fixer. I was raised by a fixer. I was raised by a genius dad who could literally fix anything. We built houses, we poured concrete, we did our own plumbing, we rebuilt our own engines in our cars, we did our own electronics. My dad was an electrician. He worked as a plant manager in a factory. He worked his way up to be vice president of the factory, which is something you could do back then, but you can't do now, unfortunately. But we fixed everything. I was raised to fix anything. He taught me how to assess why something's broken, then how you fix it. And if you don't have a spring, you go find a spring. Many times I would take springs out of ball pen, writing pens, and I would take them apart because I needed that spring that was in that pen to fix a machine or something. I fixed my own microwave door with a spring out of a pen. I mean, let me tell you this. Oh my gosh. Okay, so all my life I have been desperately poor. Maybe up until recently, but now now I can pay my bills, okay? But there was a time when I first got married, started having young children back in the 80s. I just didn't have any money. Broke. I mean, broke. But we didn't have a way to wash our clothes or dry our clothes when we first got married because we couldn't afford a washer and dryer. Oh my gosh, no way. And so somebody gave us a washer and a dryer. And anyway, it does a lot more, I can tell you. But I don't want to bore you with my pity party, what it was like back then. But somebody gave me a dryer and we loved it. Oh, wow. I didn't like the electric bill, but I liked being able to dry our clothes because in the wintertime in Illinois, sure, you can hang them up, but the sun never shines and it's always snowy and cold and it's hard to dry your clothes. We dried them in the house, in the basement, whatever. Okay, so this dryer, the electrical heating coil that it's electric dryer, it stopped working. The dryer didn't heat. It ran, but it wouldn't dry, right? I took it apart. This is how poor I was that I don't recommend you do this, but I took it apart. I got the barrel. Those of you that are appliance guys from the 80s, the barrel contains that coiled heating core that goes through there, air blows through it. I took it apart, and sure enough, the wire burned in two. And what do you think I did? I know you shouldn't do it, but when you're poor, you fix stuff. I twisted it back together. Probably dangerous, I know, but it worked forever. And I didn't have to buy anything. That's just kind of the guy I am. I love to fix stuff, I really do. And I like making my own things. And so in beekeeping, I know that I went around the barn 5 times, but when I started beekeeping, and I got more involved in beekeeping, like now I need trailers and now I need, different kind of equipments. Well, I already had all that experience. I burned up an axle on a trailer hauling beekeeping equipment. I knew to when I got home, I flipped the trailer upside down, put a new axle on it. I hate that we're losing the art. I hate that we're losing the ability to have people who liked to work with their hands. We've come around to people that they work in the field of knowledge, and that's not a bad thing. We need both. I'm not trying to be critical of people that are, I'm just saying sometimes, and I've been in that field a couple of times where you're an office worker, you're inside administration, and sometimes you wonder, what am I doing here? I don't even see any production that I've done today because I'm just pushing papers or I'm at a desk or something, And there's a joy when you can actually use your hands and you can work with your hands and you can use your noggin and say, why is this broken? Or I need something and I want to fix it. In fact, I'm going to get up. I got to get my smoker. This is raw and unedited. So I can't play music. I can't cut this. I'm going to run and get my smoker. I promise I'll only be gone 20 seconds. Are you ready? Okay, I'm coming. I know you can hear me. It may not have been 20 seconds, but it was close. My microphone pouch fell off. It slowed me down. I didn't want to tear up my microphone. All right, so here's my smoker, right? I left it out in the rain one day, and I don't like rainwater on my smoker because it's bad for them. Bad for the metal, bad for the wood. So I took it all apart, and I dried it out and cleaned it and all that stuff. But some of you noticed that I put the cage back on upside down, and it's because that's why. And I can fix it, but I'm not one that hangs my smoker on things. This thing has to be the other way. But when I was at EAS, Valerie Wampler made me, with her hands and her critical thinking skills, a certified master beekeeper, she made me this cork out of wood. Thank you, Valerie. And I love it. Now, I used it in a video that you'll see in a few days, but while I was doing my inspection and I was using it, something happened, and I'm doing like this, and this is banging against the bees and the hive and everything. Well, being a critical thinker, fixer-upper, I'm a fixer-upper. out of desperation. I am certified in some things to fix, but not, I'm not a certified smoker fixer. My papers are going to blow away. But I lay in bed going to sleep some nights thinking about how to fix stuff, and I thought, I need to make a little thing that this can go into, right? But let me show you something. There's a lot of ways that you could fix this and make this not dangle into the bees. That could make them angry. Well, if you just start thinking about it, I already have this down here. The upside down cage makes the upside down loop. And look at this. Now I can just wedge this in here like that. Oh my gosh. So, you know, that is cool, isn't it? Now, I just think this is what I'm talking about in beekeeping. I wish there were more beekeepers today who weren't just looking for an answer on, I've got this problem, what do I do? Instead, I've got this problem, what are the options? Let me research it, let me think through, let me sleep on it. That's what we mean when we say, let me sleep on it. How many ideas have you ever got in the shower? I can't tell you how many times I've had an aha moment where I knew how to fix something while taking a shower. But I think that's cool, things like that. Look, this smoker, I'm going to buy a day dance smoker. I really am. I love these smokers. And I met a guy that said I'm running one of his smokers. He told me that. It's not a bad smoker. But I looked at a day dance smoker at EAS. Oh boy, it was a Cadillac. It was a Lincoln. It was, you know, there's Ford and then there's Lincoln. And it was a Lincoln. But these only last me about a year, and I think that day dance smoker cost 60 bucks or something. It's a big one. I like big smokers. And it looked like it would last the rest of my life. This one already has a leak down here that I got to fix. An overlap cloth. So being a fixer-upper, I'm not going to replace this. I'm not going to buy another one. I'm going to fix this. I'll either sew that gap with a needle. Yes, my mom taught me how to sew buttons back on. You learn that in the military too, don't you? Those of you that have served, you learn how to sew your stuff up. But, you know, hey, you got to do stuff. I can fix this and make this run. Why is it kind of like a bad thing? Like a lot of times people think it's bad if you got to fix your own things. For me, it was. I was poor. I didn't have any choice but to fix it. I remember sometimes trying to get to work, and I'd be out there changing a timing belt on my car all night long so I could get the car running to take it to work in the morning. I mean, there's a lot of people in a lot worse situations than that. I'm just thankful I had a car and I could afford a timing belt. But I'm saying in beekeeping, that's what we do. Oh, let me share this with you. I'm going to talk more about this. Stay with me. Look at this. I'm getting ready to make another video. It's so moist. This paper's moist. It starts raining on me. I don't know if you can see this or not, but if you can see this, let me scoot up a little bit. I actually, sorry, unedited. I actually typed up my next video on, get this, a typewriter. I actually typed this up on a typewriter. No, not just any typewriter. I got the wind. Let me put my smoker over here, hold everything down. I typed it on a manual typewriter. Now, I've got computers, you know. Look at this. I typed it on a guess what year this is? It's beautiful, right? Some of you probably are typewriter collectors. This is a manual typewriter, a Corona standard. I'm going to tell you what year it is. Let me give you a hint. It was before World War II. It's a 1938 typewriter, and it works beautifully. And I love a manual typewriter. See, I was taught in school, we had to take typing class when I was in school. And I didn't know typing, but I think it might have been 5th or 6th grade. You sat down in a manual typewriter, bigger than this one, and you had to learn to type the right way. what is it called? QWERTY? Yeah, QWERTY, the QWERTY way. That's the first letters on the top row there of typing with your fingers on the home row keys. Leave me a comment if you know what I'm talking about. Cheers to all of you who are well-known manual typewriter people from the past. We're going to rise up again. I know it. I know we are. Because somewhere within us there's a desire. Because when you worked on one of these typewriters, you had to keep it going. You had to fix it. The keys would get stuck together. The ribbon would have to be reversed. I love that. I'm a little nostalgic, I guess, like that. But I love typing on a manual typewriter. Beekeeping is not far off from that. It really isn't. I mean, people are just going bat crazy about all this new gimmicks and gadgets in beekeeping, and it's blowing my mind. I'm on a rant now, aren't I? I'm so confused why people are wanting this best new this best new that. Did you just hear about this? That makes a good video, by the way. If you have a thumbnail that says, new product, better way to control, better hive for the winter, better feed for your bee. So it's like, oh, I gotta watch this video, I gotta buy this product, yay, it's gonna save the day. Come on, are we that gullible? Oh, I'm not saying that some of those things probably aren't helpful, but in all my years of beekeeping, pushing 30 years now, other than feeding my bees in the fall, I learned to do that of one-to-one to get them to raise bees winter physiology. And then other than feeding my bees all winter, and other than using a J-hook hive tool, okay, and a screen bottom board, my list is getting big, I don't really do anything differently. I don't. Look, this smoker hasn't changed any since I started, since this Queen bee invented it. It hadn't changed much. Oh, I want to say so much about that because look, let's just get down to the basics first before we buy everything. It's not a matter of what hive you buy. It really isn't. I'm not putting down people that have all these other hives now. That's fine. I got most of the hives, I think. Let me think. Oh, the only hive I don't have is a Hive IQ. Yeah, it's a hive called Hive IQ, not paid promotion. I saw him at EAS, talked to the guy, and I liked it. Reed? What's his name? Can't think of his name. Reed? I know Reed anyway. Yeah, it's interesting hive. I want to get one to try it, just so I can become familiar. I'm a certified master beekeeper. So I've got a Slovenian hive, an AZ hive that I'm going to run next spring. I've got all the hives you can think of. I've run top bars, horizontal Langstroths, Layens hives. I just want the full gamut of experience, okay? So I want to get back to this idea of why have we given up working with our hands? I think there's a pleasure, a reward when you build something or fix something with your hand. You step back and you say, oh my gosh, that makes me feel good that I was able to use what's up here and transfer it down to here and repaired something or made something or typed something out. I'm going to tell you something about typing, by the way. When you're typing on a computer keyboard, you're interrupted by an email. Boom! It comes on your screen. And then you have all these, if you're typing and now you make a mistake, all you do is you just you go backwards, right? You just delete. There's no whiteout. Everybody know what whiteout is? Okay. But the energy that is derived from you typing and staying focused on what you're doing is profound. A lot of authors today, and I think J.K. Rowling, I believe she wrote the first Harry Potter book on a typewriter. I believe I read that. Tom Hanks is a big typewriter collector. He has so many typewriters. But some authors today still prefer the typewriter because there's a connection of energy that keeps you focused on what you're writing. Beekeeping is much like that. I go into the beehive and I use a hive tool. Okay, it's shaped a little different, but it's a hive tool, right? I use a smoker. And yesterday I didn't wear any gloves. I don't need a lot of parts and pieces to keep bees. So I really want you to kind of calm down if you're trying to buy your way to be a successful beekeeper by products. I don't think it comes through the products until you have the knowledge that those products can make your life easier or put a sharper finish on what you already have on the blade. That's important. If you got a dull blade and if you don't even have an edge on it and you're trying to work it, no matter what kind of thing you do, it's not ever going to get sharper. But I just think that having a basic bee biology, having years of experience of just you discovering things in the hive is going to be profound and powerful so much. Give me a man or a woman who has observed bees for a minimum of 10 years, and I'll show you a good beekeeper. Yep, every day, all day long. I'm talking about give me a person who has kept bees, regularly work them for 10 years, who has raised queens, made up some nucleuses, done some pollination. I'll show you a darn good beekeeper. Yep. I'm not saying that you can't have a good base knowledge and you know, help people out when you have less than that. But if you really want a strong mentor in your life, yeah, find somebody like that. And find somebody that's willing to work with their hands, that who's done it all themselves. Well, anyway, I challenge you today. It's kind of like coffee time. I challenge you today. Can you really be somebody who can start learning the art of working with your head knowledge, your common sense, critical thinking skills, and build things, fix things with your hands? I know we don't have to. You're not going to fix some things, right? You're not going to fix your TV set. They're throwaways. I don't like that, but that's the way it is. I have fixed some TVs before. And, you know, I put all the wood siding on here. I put that door in there. You know, I did not build this chair. We bought the chair. I know you can pick at me and say, well, you don't build everything, but no, I know that. I'm not talking about the exceptions, right? I didn't build the typewriter. I don't know how to build a typewriter. I know how to fix one, but I can't build one because I don't have the metal ability to do that. I could probably learn it. I don't want to. But basic stuff is powerful as a beekeeper when you can learn some woodworking skills and you can keep your own things going. And some of you tell me you're making your own stuff. So that's pretty cool. Let's get back to exercising. Oh, when I'm typing, you know, when you're typing on a computer, it corrects the spelling for you. And I have become a very poor speller because I don't have to remember how to spell parallel. 2 R's, 2 L's, which one is it, you know? And I just type it and then it either corrects it or it tells me it's wrong and recommends that here's the way you spell it. When you're using a typewriter, you gotta know how to spell it. It's not gonna tell you. And it keeps your mind thinking and into what you're doing. You've got to know how to spell words because here comes that difficult word to spell, right? Vacuum. How many C's, how many U's, how many M's, and all that. Okay, enough said on this. I'm motivating you. Be somebody that, if you are a fixer like me, teach that to your kids. All my kids learned how to fix stuff. My daughter, my youngest daughter, who's in her 30s now, she changed her own oil in a new car. She had to take the plate off. That's got a plate, you know, you got to move the plate off, the clips, got to get in there. Listen to this, mechanics. I trained her so well. It's kind of a newer car. She couldn't get the oil filter off. She didn't have the oil wrench for the filter. And she used a David Burns trick that I learned, I think, from my dad. She took a screwdriver, pounded it through the middle of the oil filter, and used the screwdriver that stabbed through the oil filter to turn it loose. Now that right there, that's a fixer-upper when you take that in your own hands. Yeah. All right, good deal. I've got a great video and I told you about it. Oh, there's a fly on my lens. Sorry about that. Yeah, I can fix that. Yeah, I got a great video. I think it's going to be real helpful for you guys. I'm going to try to remember to leave some down in the description. But I've got a great video that talks about what I shared last night on my live stream, is these 3 devastating things that can happen in the month of August. If you missed that live stream, check it out over here. I'll see you guys over there.